that we don't have to limit it to one car in a trial. We can have any car in there because if it's I think you've got 4,000 people signed up for registered
Five
for the
now.
trial.
It jumped to 5,000 people. Our wait list in the space of a week, I think, when we announced BYD's partnership. Yeah.
And I'm guessing if out of those 5,000, there's not 5,000 BYDs in there. That's the thing. So there's a whole bunch of people that want to be in it that can't be in it because of the warranties.
Yeah, a lot of people actually asking or saying they want to participate, but they're waiting to buy their car to know that it is, V2G capable and warranted.
I will jump on the point a bit because it's kind of thought I have to do. I mean, like the warranty is definitely a massive part of it. There's a lot of other busy work that goes on in the background, I guess. Like when you have a car connected to a charger, it's not just sending electricity back and forth, it's sending a communication signal. Signals in terms of like what markets it can participate in, how do you trade the value of the energy back and forth, these sorts of things. So there's multiple standards. These are the communication protocols that go back and forth between these things. And yes, if we had, just warranties opened up, everyone could do whatever they like. Most of them would work a large amount of the time, but you'd still get things not working and you'd still get things faulting. And the reason why we work with groups like Task 53 internationally and why there's others of us working on standards and communication protocols, even though it's really unsexy and we're trying really hard to make energy sexy anyway, is that it is important work. If you want things to scale and grow, you do need a bit of a framework in which everything to exist, and that helps things grow more effectively. And will reduce at the end of the day the amount of time which Nathan's installers need to spend fault finding and looking at, oh no, it's not worked again, or we've got to write something new in, or we have to talk to the manufacturer about making a change so we can do X. We're trying to grow really quickly here because we want to make the biggest impact at the end of the day, and we want the most people to be able to access vehicle to grid. So both is important, the warranty is important, the standards, everything's important. We just need to all work together on it.
Yeah. I only wanted to talk about the sexy stuff, not the unsexy stuff. So
I'm trying, but sometimes it's hard.
Let's take some questions from our sexy audience. I bet you've got some really good ones. I can bring my microphone to you. I'm going to come to this gentleman, then that gentleman over there. Hello there.
Doing this.
Hello everyone. I wanted to understand the importance of insurers, banks and leasing companies to be on board when it comes to vehicle to grid. Thank you.
So the insurer who is most likely to be interested in this is the one who is providing the insurance on your car, right? Your home insurer is not going to perceive a significant new risk from vehicle to grid because the car manufacturer knows what they're doing, so does the charger manufacturer. The insurer who is providing the paper on your car is potentially concerned about the same thing that the car manufacturer is concerned about. What is this going to do to the battery? At this point, my understanding is the car insurance folks aren't representing much of a barrier, right? If you can do vehicle to grid with your car, because the vehicle manufacturer has said that's a thing you can do, then the insurance company is going to be happy. Fleet management, that's going to be important in novated leasing when it comes to how do you account for the dollar value associated with charging the car and discharging from the car. If you're on a novated lease plan that includes things like operating costs for charging the car, someone's going to need to do a little bit of thinking about how does that get folded into vehicle to grid in order to make sure, to my earlier point, that the customer who owns the car is getting paid. Because the customer's not going to participate if there's nothing in it for them. I would observe that those things are not particularly likely to be obstacles. They're just going to be things for the industry to work through.
I'd actually say it can be opportunities. So not everyone will have heard of the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, but we have that here in Australia. It provides potential pathways to innovative financing. We've had things happen like people getting loans for putting in battery systems or solar on their homes. You might have heard of that being with like really green banks like Bank Australia and others, but then it's rolled out to other banks as well. Most of that kind of stuff has got the backing of groups like the Clean Energy Finance Corporation to do these sorts of innovative financing mechanisms with things which might be perceived as a bit more risky. What I would say to that is like anyone in the financial sector listening out there, be a little bit more risky. There's a lot of people interested to take a punt on this. Technically we know it works, we know it's safe, but we do like more support to see these things grow and scale.
Extremely well said. There was another question over here somewhere. Oh, there you go. Fastest fingers first. Microphone is on its way.
So with batteries, you have different power outputs. When it comes to V2G, do we have a good idea, or do we think we have a good way of explaining to people which cars are going to be the most valuable for saying they have the most power output, this is the one you want for V2G, these are the ones we should avoid. I'm assuming sodium-ion actually the chemistry probably won't affect the power output. Well, how would we evaluate and how do we know which cars are best for that?
I'll jump in because these guys are looking concerned. So I'll just take a punt because I don't tie to any corporation, so I can kind of say whatever I want. The inverter is probably actually going to be a limitation as well. So, you've got a car that's exporting an enormous amount of power. You've got your inverter that then connects everything else in your house too. So if you've got a small inverter, then you won't be able to do anything more. So I like to think about it this way, that the numbers across your system should line up a bit closer than be further away. So if you have a massive solar system but a tiny inverter in your house, you're not going to be able to move that energy around effectively. Same thing with a car or with V2G. And it's also to do with the ports as well. So if you look online at certain cars and they're like their vehicle to load capacity or their export capacity, it might have a high number, let's say just like 11 or something, being able to totally export the energy out of that car. That might be across 4 different ports on the vehicle itself, all doing different levels of vehicle to load. So what I would say with this kind of stuff is just look closely at the numbers in there, look closely at your own system, and probably don't try to bite off more than you can chew as well. At the end of the day, this kind of stuff is going to happen in limited time windows, like when Amber has their offerings and they do the trading of electricity back and forth. It's not happening over like a 5-hour period, it's happening in a short period of time. So the only time you're going to be able to export that energy is those windows. So don't overbuild.
Could I jump in on that one as well? So when you're talking about power going into the battery in the car or power coming out of the battery, sorry, I should say energy going in or energy going out. Power is the speed at which that energy is moving. If I'm driving an electric car, like my wife's Polestar, and I drop my foot hard on the accelerator, that battery output will peak at about 100 kilowatts, maybe a bit more. If I stop at a fast charger to recharge that car, the input power will be about 100 kilowatts. The limitation in the main circuit breaker in a typical house in this country is more like 15. So the limitation isn't what the battery in the car can do. The battery in the car is sized to do 6 times what the maximum you can get through the circuit breaker in the house is. The limitation isn't the car. So if the manufacturer can do vehicle to grid, you're golden. The question on how much can you export is, do you have 3-phase and how big is the box on the wall?
And what is the answer? Should we need 3-phase in a V2G future, or is that overkill?
No, definitely not. And the reason I say that is that while 3-phase is handy, if you're, a person like me and has decided to overcook what they install in their home, a typical domestic home doesn't need more than 60 to 80 amps. Those figures I was quoting before, if you've got 20% of the cars in the future doing V2G, I'm assuming they are doing that V2G at about 5 kilowatts. Right? 25, 30 amps, single phase, 1/5 of the cars doing it, and you can shut down all the coal and shut down all the gas. We cannot actually have a future where all the cars are doing V2G, even single phase, because we don't have that demand in the grid. Right? If you had all of the cars exporting at the same time, you would have 3 times more energy being put out than the sum total of the country is using at that time, even before we start upgrading houses to 3-phase. So if you want to go to 3-phase and install a Monster air conditioner, go right ahead. You don't need to do it for your car, even if you're doing V2G.
Yeah, the value is there for these smaller vehicles. We've got a customer at the moment, a staff member, he's got an MG4, I think it's about 54 kilowatts. He's got a small solar system, 6 kilowatt hours, and no battery. And, he's saving about $3,000 a year just over the winter months, June, July, August. We saved about $1,000. We had a bit of volatility in that period. So yeah, we're seeing on average that customers could potentially save about $3,000 a year on, pretty small setup.
And his install's limited to 5 kilowatts on the battery as well.
True,
the
yeah,
VG, so
export
that's
limits,
5 kilowatts.
5
Look at
kilowatts.
that.
Yeah, true.
Time for one speedy final question. Annabelle, choose your victim.
No pressure.
Yeah, I know, right? Oof.
Arm wrestle? No? Okay, there we go.
Hi. I had a question about whether you have any opinions on whether V2G, AC V2G or DC V2G is better for consumers, and because we're starting to see cars that do either one, and I don't know which one is more valuable.
Before Ross talks about the regulations, there's actually not a choice at the moment. When we talk about the regulations earlier around AS4777, it's around the grid codes. A DC charger sits on the wall, one grid code done. When you talk AC, you need the car and the charger doing it. There's multiple cars, multiple chargers, and they move around. That will come, maybe, depending, but that won't be for a while. So at the moment, the choice will be DC.
Yeah, so I'd say the future is going to include both, and a lot of vehicle-to-grid AC has been done in Europe by different car manufacturers, so there will be some of each. If I was to gaze into a crystal ball and say, what's going to be the most likely architecture in Australia? Vehicle-to-grid, I'm expecting, will be mostly a thing done in standalone homes that have solar on the roof. So I'm imagining there's one box on the wall that's really good at turning DC into AC, and in the middle of the day it's turning DC from the solar panels into AC, and in the afternoon it's turning DC from the car into AC, and overnight it's charging that car if it's the thing you want to do. There's a whole bunch of ways that this vegetable can be peeled. I am tipping that the first organisation that brings an inverter that'll do the solar panels and the car for solar export and vehicle export is probably going to do really, really well approaching homes that have 2 kilowatt solar systems and upgrading them to 5, with the question of, do you want the inverter that can do V2G?
I want to make a quick point on it to build on though, that it's an either and thing, not an either or thing. So the whole, any newspaper headline you see like DC or AC, batteries or V2G, there's over 20 million cars in Australia. There's plenty of opportunity to do both. Everyone is an individual, everyone has their own home. There's different approaches that need to be taken for each one.
Guys, this has been fascinating and quite inspiring as well. You hear all this talk about, oh, where are we going to get all the power we need for all these electric vehicles? The opposite is true. They have brought the power, and if anything, we have too much of it. We just need to figure out how to distribute it now. Extremely cool. If you had a question and you didn't get to ask it, maybe you can have a chat with my panellists stateside. Otherwise, could you give them a massive round of applause? Thank you all.